How many times do I have to say this, ladies and gentlemen? This isn't brain surgery. Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin invaded our allies in Ukraine. Why? So that Putin could stick his chest out and steal land and take land away from Ukraine. And for some reason, I think Donald Trump is giving in to Putin and wants to reward Putin for invading our allies. And here's Donald Trump once again. Keep in mind, he's called Zelensky a dictator. He said that Ukraine started the war. We know that's not the case. We know that's not true. But here's Donald Trump once again earlier today coddling Vladimir Putin and criticizing Vladimir Zelensky. It's absolutely disgusting. Have a listen to this.
And I get along with Zelensky, but, I disagree with what he's done. Very, very severely disagree. This is a war that should have never happened, wouldn't have happened. But I'll be...
Yeah, it wouldn't have happened. How many times have we heard this? It wouldn't have happened if I was president of the United States. How many times can we say that now? The explosion that took place in Pennsylvania today wouldn't have happened if Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden was president. Really, you can go down the list of every single tragedy and anything that happens under the Trump administration and say it wouldn't have happened under Joe Biden. That's exactly what Donald Trump did for 4 years. And now anything that happens, anything, he blames it all on Joe Biden. This was the same guy who literally said that he would end the war within 24 hours. That's what he said. He said it almost at every campaign rally. In fact, he said he would end the war and pick up the phone before he even got into office. Oh, well, I was just being sarcastic. I mean, is there anybody out there with a brain that still believes anything that Donald Trump says? LVZ on the YouTube Super Chat says, I've only been in D.C. all my life, and I'm only a fourth-generation resident. What the hell is he talking about? Graffiti on the walls. Listen, LVZ, I don't know. But this is all nonsense and gibberish. The whole press conference. And here's Donald Trump being really tough on Russia, because if you speak to MAGA Republicans, they'll say, there's nobody that's more tough on Russia than Donald Trump, which is a joke, by the way. Donald Trump is the guy that said Putin COVID test kits in the middle of COVID. He's called him smart. He's called him a genius. He's called him savvy. He's complimented him in every way, shape, or form. And we're supposed to be led to believe that he's more tough on Russia than anybody, which is a joke, by the way. Tell me, what sanctions has Russia given up? Has Donald Trump punished Russia in any way, shape, or form? Well, here's Donald Trump again speaking really tough, because he's the toughest guy when it comes to Russia. This sounds like a kindergarten teacher being tough on a student and telling him to go sit in the corner. Really, that's what this sounds like, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to Trump speaking really tough about Vladimir Putin. Listen to this.
Well, it's the worst thing that's happened, by far the worst that's happened since World War II. So I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin, and I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war. You got to end it. And he wasn't going to mess with me. This war would have never happened. We had a discussion about it one time, and we never had that discussion again. Would have never happened. And when the election was rigged, and then Biden took office, which was barely took office, the auto pen took office, bad things started happening. Bad things, stupid things were said, and it ended up in a war.
There he goes again, blaming Joe Biden for all of his problems. It never would have happened if I was president. This never would have happened if I was president. Well, I would say that we wouldn't have had these horrible tariffs and the American consumer paying billions for it if Joe Biden was president. I would also be willing to say that we wouldn't have had a bunch of insurrectionists and some of those who beat police officers on January 6th out on the streets right now. That wouldn't have happened if Joe Biden was president. We would have had more people access to insulin being capped at $35 if Joe Biden was president. I can guarantee you if Joe Biden was president, we wouldn't have had this big, beautiful bill and the top 1% receiving the biggest tax breaks they've ever had in American history if Joe Biden was president. We wouldn't have had people that are going to be losing their food stamps. We wouldn't have had all these people that are going to be losing their Medicaid if Joe Biden was president. And Joe Biden would have never cavilled to an evil dictator like Putin. He would not have tried to convince Zelensky to allow Russia to take over some of your land. He would have never done that. he would have called Putin what he has called him in the past, which is a dictator. And he wouldn't have allowed Putin to play him like the fiddle the way he's played Donald Trump. So I could go on and on and on. If you want to play that game, MAGA, and you want to talk about, oh, well, this would have never happened if, Donald Trump was president. It's an absolute joke. Then there comes the China tariffs. Do you remember this? Now, the deadline is tonight, and a reporter asked Donald Trump about this and asked, are you planning on extending it? And that's where we get the nickname Taco Trump. Listen to how he answers this question.
Yeah, thank you. The China tariff deadline is tonight, but do you plan to extend that?
We'll see what happens. China's been, we've been dealing very nicely with China, as you probably have heard. They have tremendous tariffs that they're paying to the United States of America. And we'll see what happens. They've been dealing quite nicely. The relationship is very good with President Xi and myself.
Did you just hear the way he answered that question? This is why we call him Taco Trump. Let me repeat again. The tariff deadline is tonight. Notice how he doesn't answer the question. Well, what if they don't respond? What if they don't do anything? Oh, well, just gives you a word salad. Same thing with Russia. Same thing with Putin. That's why we call him Taco Trump. But when it comes to alleged graffiti in D.C., he's going to send out the National Guard for that because he has no real plan.